Welcome to the Time Experience. Thank you for joining us today. We are very glad to have you today with us. Your time means a lot to us.
Hi Satyam, I'm glad to be here with you and I'm looking forward to this sport.
Can you tell us about yourself, what you do currently to our
So
audience?
I'm Chetan Bhambri. I have been in technology industry for almost 3 decades now, 27 plus years now. Started as an engineer or developer, and I would say I have taken 4 or 5 different avatars during my career tenure. Moving from an engineer to a manager role, going into the product side, engineering side, and eventually now I work as a consultant, as a coach, and my niche area is working with leaders to help them fulfill their real potential.
First question that I would like to ask you is that what was your motivation behind transition from engineering role to a management role?
My motivation was my leader at that point of time. I don't think it was a planned move from my side. My leader identified I have that potential, I have that inclination, and then he brought it up. And that's how my movement from engineering to management happened. I would say 15 to 20 years back, which never an easy move to move from engineering to a management or leadership position. Engineering is more or less black and white, and when we move to management or leadership, there's a lot of ambiguity you have to deal with. It does not come naturally to an engineering background person.
So, many students don't have such leaders in their lives. How do you advise them that they can find what comes naturally to them? How can they find their passion? How do they find their calling?
I would say be ready to experiment. And I think the education is the only time when more or less we know if we put this effort, we'll get the results. The correlation is very direct. If we are putting the efforts, will we get the marks? Will we get the grade? But now if I look back, I think that was much more direct correlation. Once you're out of college, you're out of education in real world, correlation even decreased. The efforts you're putting, what results you'll get, when will you get, we don't know. So the only thing which I have learned, keep experimenting, have an hypothesis.
As a early youngster or a college freshman, how do we get these opportunities to experiment?
Great question. I think internship, and I was trying to look exact meaning of internship in the dictionary also before this podcast. So internship is all about gaining the actual work experience while you're continuing your education. It's a fabulous way for someone still in his or her education year to gain a flavor of what happens in the real world. I would say this is the most risk-free option for a student, because in internship, everyone understands you're there to learn. There's no pressure of performance, and that creates a safe space for a student to learn new things, to experiment, and also build the competence further.
Right. Students are confused between internships and pursuing their academic scores. So they like to maintain a very high academic score. At the same time, they let go of the internship opportunities that come handy to them. How do we balance the two of them?
I would say this is a lifelong struggle we all go through. And I am a big fan of what we call as horizon model. I work on this with the leaders also. As I was saying, this is a challenge for everyone. Typically what happened, we look at only the activity which gives us return today. So that we call as the horizon 1. It's very easy to relate. I'm doing something today, I'm getting return, I feel like doing it today. I feel like doing it again and again and again, right? Because it's very self-fulfilling. However, ask the question, if that activity is going to help in year grow after 6 months, after 1 year, after 2 years, if not, what else do you need to do? So academic is good for today, but once you go out of the college for a job, it's the internship which will have a bigger impact.
In my conversations with students and their parents, I have realized that parents are not very confident about internships, especially those who come from a tier 2, tier 3 cities of India. They consider internships as an alien thing. They want the students to focus more on academics. What is your message?
I started my career way back in 90s. A very different economy, very different India at that point of time. The job scenario was very different. If you have to get into a job, there were only few paths, engineering, medical, or probably you get into the UPSC. Now, today, the learning could come from multiple ways. Learning is not limited to, we can learn from multiple sources today. At the same time, the path to the career is no more limited to engineering or medical or UPSC, if I may call, right? There are multiple paths. We can look at the startup founders, we can look at the many other examples which tell, if I believe in something, if I can show courage, I can build my own path. I'm a parent of a 17-year-old kid. As a parent, we need to understand the world has changed now. And I would actually go one step further. I would say, if we are sticking to the same path, especially with the Gen AI coming, it will actually be very counterproductive. if we're trying to be very safe at this point of time. We cannot afford to be safe. We have to take a risk, we have to learn something new and go on from there.
You seem to have worked in a lot of different places and countries, and you have worked in the US and also in the UAE, and significant work in India. How do you differentiate the work culture in the three countries, and is there something where we can improve in the coming future?
Yes, I've in India also. I've lived in couple of cities, multiple cities. I've lived in Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi. Each city will have its own plus and minus. If we are going to work somewhere else, while be aware of what is different, also look for the positive points at that city. I think more often we try to look at the differences. This is different here. This is different from what we are used to. And I think you're pointing to India when you say what we could do better. In last 10 years, we have seen a lot of change. I think in general, we need to become more enterprise, more entrepreneurship, more risk taking, and move from traditional paths to look for new paths. So I always give one example. 10 years back, 20 years back, if someone has to do well in a film industry, the only option for him or her was to go to Mumbai. There was no other option, right? Yeah, you can go to the regional centers, but you have to go to one. Today, it is reverse. You can use your mobile, you can become a star, and then you'll be invited to go to that Mumbai. You can build that personal mastery, you can build that brand image. You don't need to leave your home to do that.
Right. So going back 10-20 years, what was the interview process like when you interviewed for your first job?
I think at that point, the criteria used to be definitely academic performance. And secondly, how well person would be suited in the organization and in the job. And other thing which I realized, which has remained more or less constant, and this is again, I would like to give a message to the parents as well as the children. I have always been selected because I had a niche which differentiated me from others. And that helped me got selected again and again. And as I was earlier saying, I've got like 4 or 5 avatars in last 27 years. So I keep reinventing myself with the new learning, and that has helped me.
Finding your niche and reinventing yourself. Can you talk more about these two areas? Because I think it will help a lot of students if they have some clarity about these two concepts.
Most of the times, most of us do not have clarity what we want to eventually do with our life or our careers. And now I'm a coach. I'm a professional coach now. I work with leaders. I coach them. And being a coach, it's part of my training that a lot of these answers have to come from ourselves. If I'm telling you, I'm guiding you, okay, this path is good, that is from my perspective, not from your perspective. So while you can have a mentor, it's very necessary to have a mentor, a coach, which can share his or her experience, which can help you reflect. The only fulfillment will come when you chart out your own, and there's no shortcut to it. There are some lucky people who are able to do it early in 1 or 2 iterations. But for most of us, it takes some time to realize, okay, this is what I want to do. So that's one part of it. And secondly, if you really want to follow what you want to do, you need a courage. We need a courage. It does not come without courage, because there will be a lot of forces telling you this is not good, that is not conventional, do it in a different way, you'll not be successful. Why don't you try a conventional path? You have to be courageous against all of those voices. They would be from your near and dears also, which are wishing your well-being. But it's from their world perspective. But your world perspective is different. So you will need courage. Have that courage and it will come.
Right. Talking a little more about challenges, what were the challenges like on your first job? Right after your university, you started your first job. Were there challenges that you faced?
So I was a college topper at my time. So I used to think, right, I've got everything in control. So when I went to the industry, my first job, it was a big shock, right? Because that is the real challenge what you have to face. Yes, what you've learned is good enough. But now it's a new world. You have to learn trick of the games, what we call, which are never taught in the college. Again, this is where internship come into picture. Internship will teach a student the trick of the games.
What is your strategy when you pick a new skill or when you are starting to learn something new?
So first one, I would start from the selection of it. How do we select what we want to pick? Because I think that's very crucial in nowadays. You have wealth of information, you have wealth of courses, this or that, short term or long term. Do you go for a micro learning? Do you go for a college learning? So there's a lot of options today, which I think when we went for engineering, it was very easy. You have to go for engineering and that's pretty much of it. And then you can go for your MBA. But now, in last 10 years, the options have multiplied. So I think first is the selection process. And I would say when at the selection, look at the bouquet of options. Look at 2 or 3 options which align with your path. Think about what you want to see yourself in next 4 to 5 years. And then select 2 or 3 options and experiment with them. Maybe spend a week with each of them. That will give you more understanding of what is actually aligning with your path. Then pick one, go for it for some time, and then look for opportunities where you can actually convert that learning into doing part of it, because learning is of no use unless you do it. So learn routine part of it, that is very important, from learning to making it a part of our routine.
So coming to the selection criteria that you have in the corporates, as you come from a lot of experience, you must be involved in the hiring processes sometime or the other. So what is it that you look for in a candidate?
So I would say hiring becomes complicated because while organizations have their criteria, it also depends on the person who is taking the interview. So it's a combination of a science and art. I think in the interview, what I look for, how honest the person is, because we have been doing it for more than 2 decades. We can know when someone is telling. There's a difference in what he is telling and what he is doing. It's very easy for us. Secondly, is person forward looking or not? This person has the aspirations to grow or not? And grow does not only mean the vertical growth, could be learning also. Growth could be doing different things also. Is the person too stuck in what he knows? You have to have ability to align with the organization, with your team members also. So that flexibility needs to be there.
That's a great insight for all of us who are preparing for our interviews right now. So let us talk about the elephant in the room, generative AI. So regarding the generative AI, a popular notion is that it will take up the jobs. Students are very worried about it. What is your opinion?
So we have seen these cycles earlier also. It's nothing new. We heard the same talks around in 80s and 90s when the personal computers were coming in, that these will replace the jobs. And if you look back, yes, they have taken the jobs which could be replaced by what personal computer can do. On the other hand, they have created many other jobs which we could not have even envisioned at that point of time. We could have never envisioned that. We have seen a time when for calling a cab, you have to call someone. So this is Bangalore 20 years back when I came first here in 2002. So you'll dial a number, you'll ask, okay, I need a cab at this and this point, and the cab will come. Now you can do it through an app. Now we can say that app has taken away the job of that person, or we can look at what all other jobs it has created. So to summarize again back, yes, the jobs will be gone. However, instead of only worrying about what jobs would be gone, especially for the students, especially for the professional, I think it's better if you look at what jobs will get created in the next 5 years and focus on them. I think each time this disruption happens, it's very easy to pick what you want to learn. If there's no disruption, then I'll be more worried if there's no disruption, because then I don't know what to do in the future. We have got so much happening, so much opportunities we have got today. Look for the opportunities and focus on what could be there tomorrow. Don't worry about what would be gone. Make yourself ready.
So this is a question that I personally have. What do senior leaders of the organization, as you are one of them, what do you expect from youngsters who are joining the company or the organization? What kind of leadership is expected out of us who are coming fresh out of college or are young professionals?
Stand up for yourself. Be vocal. You've got a lot of ideas which you want to hear, which leaders want to hear. I think the most important is take ownership and accountability. There are leaders who are ready to support, who are ready to give you safe. What is required is take ownership and accountability. So again, to summarize, stand up, be vocal, and take accountability. And I think that will give you many more opportunities.
So thank you so much for your time.